for things like manual tasks, what you'll find is, and this sort of leads down back to that internet you were talking about before, we might need to offer some assistance, is that there's a lot of information about how to do manual handling correctly. There's codes of practice around it, and you can also engage outside external providers to come in and teach you how to do correct manual handling techniques. Electricity is also a hazard in the workplace as well, particularly if you've got a lot of cables and everything running around in the office itself. They can definitely cause significant harm to a person with the voltage going through them. They can also cause trip hazards as well in the workplace too. So that's another one to be mindful of, electricity in the workplace. Gravity, so that's you falling from one level to another, and also things falling onto you. Now, if you're at a workplace which is a lot of things stacked on shelves, books on shelves, boxes on shelves, how do you get those down? This comes into it, but also if that falls onto you, that would be a gravity hazard. So the thing I want you to take out, so we've got a couple more to go through as well, is that a lot of people sometimes get confused between a hazard and an outcome. So for example, electricity is a hazard, electrocution is the outcome. Water on the floor is a hazard, the outcome is slips, trips and falls. Sometimes you ask people about hazards and they always say, oh, slips, trips and falls. Well, that's the result of a hazard. So getting into that mindset of actually what is hazardous in the workplace is the key here. Machinery and equipment. Okay, so do you know how to operate the machinery properly? Is it guarded properly? So you can't inadvertently stick your fingers into areas and be exposed to hazards there. Noise can be quite hazardous, and that's a bit of a long-term issue for hearing, is if you're exposed to, I guess, low levels of noise over a long period of time can cause problems, or sudden impact noise as well can certainly end up giving you serious problems with your hearing. So exposure to noise and psychological hazards in the workplace. So workplace relations, bullying, time pressures, excessive pressure to get unreasonable work expectations as well can lead to psychological, or what we call in this injury, psychosocial harm in the industry as well. So that just gives you an idea of the sorts of things which would be hazards in the workplace. Remember, you're not looking at the next step, which is the outcome of it, slips, trips, falls. What would cause the slip, trip and fall to happen? That's what we're looking at in the workplace. So another thing that I believe that you and your department do a lot of is working at a computer in a call centre. Yeah. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to have a look at some of the things around the workplace with regards to using a computer. And some of this you might already be familiar with, and some of the other little techniques here might be new to you yourself. So we'll just work in a clockwise direction. Yeah. And this was the first one that I thought was quite, never even thought about it before, a 5-point based chair. So I think I've got a lower chair here, yeah, and it's got 5 on the bottom of it. Yeah. And why is that? So it's stable. Okay. Now I had a look at I've done some research at, like, when these first started coming in, they only had 4. Yeah. And what they must have realised that people would topple off them if they moved around and that. So they've gone to the 5-leg system. Yeah. Making sure it's got that and they're in good condition. It says here no armrests as well. It's a good technique. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Well, what they say is that it's with the armrest, it might stop the chair being pulled into where it needs to be from a desk point of view. Yeah, because the arms of the chair will actually hit the desk. Yep. Now, your thighs should be angled slightly down towards the ground. Use the backrest in the chair. Head is in a neutral position with the chin parallel to the ground. Eyes slightly lower than the top of the screen. So these are all the things you can go back and set up in your workplace. And as a team leader, you can go around and do assessments with your own team as well to see how they have set up their workplace. Yeah. Forearms angled slightly down to keyboard, wrist in a neutral position, mouse, keyboard and other equipment nice and easy to reach. Work surface is level and flat with enough room to do tasks. and feet rest on the floor or a footrest is used. Screen is about 1 arm length away and directly in front, so you can practice that yourself.
Yeah.
Cords and cables are neatly stored. We talked about electricity on the previous slide as being a hazard, so it's important to make sure that, and that can also be a trip hazard as well. Power outlets and boards are not overloaded, and it's important to make sure that someone comes in regularly and does an inspection for tagging on your electrical equipment as well, and that they're in good condition. So that's a great little overview there of how to set up your ergonomics of your workplace to ensure that it's nice and safe. So, yeah, I think it'd be good if you take that away and you can apply it to your
Yeah,
work.
there are some important points there that, as long as I've stayed within the workforce, there was points there that I wasn't aware of before, so
That's good.
I can take something from here.
Fantastic, yeah. And you'll get a copy of all this at the end as well. Right, what we're going to look at now is assessing and controlling hazards in the workplace. Basically, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of risk assessment now. How's your arm going there?
Yeah, it's okay because it's rested.
Yep.
It's just movement. When I stay too long in one position, I gotta
Okay.
move it to.
Yeah, you're happy to manage that
I'm
yourself?
all right.
Okay, you just let me know if that's causing you any problem. So risk management, all workplaces must follow a process to identify hazards and remove or reduce associated risks. So when it comes down to hazard identification, the first thing you want to think about is how can I remove that hazard altogether? We call that elimination in work health and safety. If not, it needs to be controlled then. So, what is a hazard? Do you have a definition for a hazard from your experience? How would you define a hazard?
Well, from what my experience in the past, a hazard is anything that can cause harm to an individual or damage to plant or equipment. That's basically what a hazard is.
You've nailed it. You've nailed it. A hazard is anything that could cause harm to people and or property. Fantastic. Yeah, so that's really good. You've got a really, and now I know why this is just a 30-minute session. You've got a good understanding. What is the risk though? The risk is the chance or probability of harm if people or property are exposed to that hazard. So again, if we eliminate it, we won't have that risk at all. But if it's still there, it's going to then pose some type of risk to our workers and ourselves. Assessing the risk of hazards. To assess a hazard, you need to work out the risk of it. This is determining by asking yourself the following questions. How likely is it to cause harm? So it's likelihood. What's the consequence? What is the outcome if it does harm me? All identified hazards must be controlled. To remove or reduce the risk of harm. To control the hazards, you need to assess the likelihood and consequence of the hazard occurring. Determine and implement the most effective control measures. And how, okay, so thinking, I might just go back to that slide. So where would you find maybe information on how to control hazards in your workplace? Where would you get that information from?
Oh,
Where would you refer to?
well, the metrics that came up there would be one way of actually finding out how to control hazards.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can actually look into the portal and there will be a hazard control measure depending on the topic that you are dealing with.
Yep. Yep. You might find it in the procedure in your workplace. That might tell you how to control that hazard.
Yes, yes.
Other places you might find it would be in those codes of practice that could give you guidance. Manufacturer's instructions on how to operate plant and machinery. Australian standards will also give you control measures. So there's different avenues of information you can go and have a look at to give you ideas around controlling those. Then it might be industry norm as well. People, and this is when you're doing your analysis of what the hazard is, involving as many people as possible is key, because someone else might say, oh listen, in my last job, this is what we did and it was really effective, and then you've got a solution as well. When we do that analysis, what we use is a risk matrix, and most of them are called a 5 by 5. And that's what we're looking at here. We've got 5 different consequences along the top, and we've got 5 different likelihoods along the side as well. Because we don't have too much time, I'll just run through an example just so you can get an understanding of how to apply the matrix with risk management itself. So if we had a railway level crossing and we had a road going over it and we didn't have anything there at all, no warning signs, no stop sign, no give way sign, no cross to say railway crossing, and there was trees there blocking the sighting distance and everything like that, there is a risk of a car and a train colliding at some stage. Now, if that happened, we would probably say that we might have loss of life when that happens. So straight away, we know that we are now in this column over here. We're in the loss of life column as well. There's all those controls are missing. We are just relying basically on whether that car, those people might just want to stop themselves and have a look at, or good luck. So the chances are of something happening, well, let's just have a look where we think that might sit. That might be likely. Okay? So where does that give us? That gives us then a risk rating of extreme. Okay? Bang. This is where your starting point is. Now we want to control that hazard. If we turned around and said, oh, listen, let's maybe put some signage in there to make people aware. Now, I'll just have the 2 examples here. Let's say we put in stop signs and we clear the trees away. So we're going to rely on people to stop there, check for the trains, and then go through. There's no physical barrier in front of them, so maybe some people actually don't do that. It allows them to not do that. Because the hazard of the car and the train still interacting with each other is still there, we don't stop. We don't come out of this column. We still could end up with loss of life. But what we might find then is that we drop down to possible or unlikely, because most people will stop due to their driving habits and check for trains. So what we do is then we come in an unlikely, and this now would be our new risk rating for it. And what we could do is we could demonstrate that we've reduced it from extreme to high. But that still might not be acceptable, okay? So what we might do then is we might say, well, we've got a bucket of money. What we're actually going to do is we're going to build a bridge over top of that railway crossing, okay? Now, if we go and do that, and there's no interaction between the car and the train whatsoever, we've now done the top level of what we call our hierarchy of control. We have eliminated it. Now we haven't got that at all. Whilst we still have that interaction with that train and car, we're never going to come out of that consequence column. All we have done by reducing the risk is the likelihood of it happening. So that's just one example how using the matrix there to demonstrate how you control the risk can help you. But what we want to aim for is elimination in the workplace, to try and eliminate the hazard itself. If we can't do that, then we are required to apply another control to reduce that risk. And those things that I was talking about, like the sign then, putting up the stop sign at the level crossing, they are what we call administrative controls. And as you can see, they are right down on the bottom of the list here. Okay, that's why only the likelihood only came down a little bit, but we're still in that loss of life situation. If you want to have a different outcome, that's when you need to start putting in engineering controls. So an engineering control might be boom gates. Okay, those boom gates drop down. That's now like sort of like a physical barrier for a car to get through. Substitution as well. That's probably a good one for chemicals. You've been using a chemical that's quite nasty and harsh on humans to do a certain task, but it only takes 10 minutes to do it because it's so effective. I'm going to go and substitute that out now for a non-hazardous chemical, but it might take 30 or 40 minutes or an hour to do it, but you've actually reduced the risk now because you've substituted that chemical itself. So this is what you are required to do by law. Okay. All right, so what I want you to do now, James, is this is a handout here, and I'll have a copy myself. I want you to just have a quick look at this here and we'll just talk through the different things that you can see on there. And how's your arm at the moment? It's all good?
Yes.
Yep. And like I said, you don't need to do any writing. So let's just pick out a couple, because we're running out of time here, but let's just pick out a couple of things here that you can pick straight away.
Yeah.
So just throw one hazard at me.
Alright, look, one of the hazards here, I think, is the posture of the guy sitting here.
Yep.
The way he's sitting is kind of like awkward position.
Yes.
He could get his legs tired very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes are not at the level it should be towards the computer. So then there's a lot of strain on his body as it is. Another thing is the electric cables passing around the floor.
Yes.
If he get up to move, he could actually trip over it. He got his drawer open here. He could actually knock his knee onto the drawer and turn around and things like that.
Fantastic. Look, listen, I think you picked up a couple of good things there. What do you think, with the posture and the computer and everything, what could you do as a team leader to try and resolve that hazard?
With the posture and the computer, where he, as the slide told us, looking at the computer, your eye level should be just below the top of the screen. But when you look at this, you can see that his eye level is like in the middle of the screen. So you can adjust the screen in a way that it comes to a position that you can look straight at it with his eye level there. You can have him sitting in a better posture with his two legs on the flat on the floor, where he will have a good posture, and then when he look at the computer, he wouldn't have to have his head up because it would be a strain on his neck as well. So by adjusting the screen or the chair, either way the chair can be adjusted and adjusted.
Yep. And how are you going to get that person to do that?
Well,
what would be the way to do that? And not only him, but everyone in the workplace.
Well,
what would be the best thing to do that?
The best thing is to send notices around